So today we're sitting down with one of the most authentic voices coming out of Arkansas. As an artist whose storytelling, energy, and raw delivery represents the heart of Little Rock, he's been putting on for the city for decades. His new record, I'm From the Rock, is already becoming an anthem for the home team. From his grind in the streets to his growth as an artist, the RIDAH G.O.D brings a perspective that's both real and undeniable. We're diving into music, the movement, and the mindset behind the man. So, as no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the RIDAH G.O.D.
I appreciate that.
How you feeling, bro?
Blessed. Feeling blessed, man.
Good to see you, man.
Honored to be here.
Absolutely. All right, man, so we're gonna open the interview. So my first question to you is, I'm From the Rock. It carries a lot of pride and grit. What was the core emotion or moment that sparked the idea for the song?
You know, like you said, just being proud to represent the soil, city, and the state. You know, not just the Rock, all sides in the Rock and the North. You know, just the whole thing. A lot of pride went in it. A lot of love for the home soil. I just wanted to do it, you know, be original, put my own flair to it, you know, ferocious productions, you know, murdered the beat, and I just wanted to just speak from the heart, you know. I didn't want to just make a traditional anthem. I wanted to add real life in there, real slick political commentary, reality, street commentary, and with a splash of testimonial. And I just wanted to rep all sides, South, East, West, and North, and Southwest, and the Mexicans, and talk about it all, and just basically stick my chest out and let the world know that I'm proud of where I'm from.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, look, so my next question is, when people outside of Arkansas hear I'm From the Rock record, what do you want them to understand about the city and your story specifically?
Well, you know, outside of the Rock, well, I'm gonna stay inside the state lines. You know, I want them to know, I want them to feel it. You know, I want, you know, God is such the greatest that I wanted to, the frequency of it, the emotion of it, the vibration of it, to resonate to anyone within the state lines of Arkansas. Even though it's a Rocktown anthem, make no mistake, it's still Arkansas to the bone gristle. And based off the response that I've been seeing for the record, they're feeling that. And that makes me happy, you know, to see that people from Northwest Arkansas, people from Jonesboro, down in the Delta, you know, all the way down towards El Dorado, everywhere, you know, they all tapping in and taking pride in this record. And it's a beautiful surprise, and I'm just happy that they're receiving the record the way that they're receiving the record. And I just want them to know that they're a part of it too, even though we're in the capital city. This ain't just about Rocktown, because the governor, I made a line about the governor, I made a line about the mayor. Those two lines were specific and they were intentional. I intentionally mentioned Frank Scott, that's on a city level. I intentionally mentioned Sarah Huckabee Sanders, that's on a state level. So anyone that felt what I said in those lines, you know, that reverberates far beyond Little Rock. So it's a beautiful thing to see, and I want them to know that I'm down with them too. It's Arkansas, it's Arkansas.
Absolutely. Okay. So what is the biggest challenge in capturing Little Rock's culture in a way that still feels universal to listeners everywhere?
That's a great question. I've been on the scene for a minute, a couple of decades, doing music in the city. And our city is different in regards to, from a market standpoint, Memphis, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, New Orleans, Oklahoma City, and so on. Everyone's had an identity, or so to speak, a sound to represent their region, their soil, where they're from. Arkansas, and specifically Little Rock, we always watched and was influenced by all of these markets, as far as over to the east, to the west, up north, and everywhere down south. And that's another question and another answer to get deep into the rabbit hole of that. But what I will say is, it starts with just being original, being yourself. Born and raised in Little Rock. I've represented proudly, and that was the main thing, was just being original to myself, being true to myself, and then placing that on some original Rocktown sound from a musical producer that's a staple in the city, Ferocious Production. What he cooked up for that song, it just felt so Rocktown. And I just expressed from the heart and was original and true to myself, and got on that beat, did what we did, and put it out there and let it fall where it may. But at the end of the day, I could sleep at night because I knew that I was true to myself. And I wasn't trying to chase any fad, trying to chase anything, I was just trying to be true to where I'm from. And I think we accomplished that.
Absolutely. So the track has a street anthem energy. Was that intentional from the start, or did the vibe come together naturally during the recording process?
You say could you repeat that again?
Sure. The track has a street anthem energy. Was that intentional from the start, or did that vibe come together during the recording process?
Well, the short answer is, yeah, it was very intentional. The long answer is, I made it out the streets. I grew up project living, single parent household, 8 kids, one of 8 kids, no guidance, no father figure around, a constant presence. And fortunately, I was in them streets. So that element just bleeds through because that's a part of who I am. It's not all that I am, but it's a component of who I am. So it naturally bleeds through because I can't unknow what I know, and I can't not represent who I am or my experiences or my testimony, what I've gone through and what I survived and what I've overcome in regards to the streets. So it was just a seamless blend to just speak from the heart and from a perspective of experience. And that's the beautiful thing, just when you speak from your heart and stay true to you and talk about what you've been through, it gives you insight, it gives you perspective, it gives you depth to be able to, without even trying to add a street element to it, you just be who you are and talk about what you know. And you can't fool the listener, They can see through what's real and what's fake. If they don't pick it up when they hear it, they can feel it. So it was just natural. But it was very intentional though, because it's a part of who I am. Great question.
Okay. So if you could pick one bar from the song that represents who the RIDAH God is, which line would that be and why?
It's a great question. In the city I'm from, it taught me how to survive. I done seen a few things. That's why I'm glad I'm alive. That would probably sum up. That set the pace for the whole song. So it would probably be that.
Can you expound on why that particular lyric kind of resonates with you more so specifically over the entire song? Like what makes you pick that one? Of course, it's the opening, which is superb songwriting in my opinion. So just speak a little more about how that connects with you and like what your mindset was when you came up with that opening line.
I'm older. I've been doing this thing for a few decades, and in order to do what you love, there's gonna be good times and there's gonna be bad times. Like the market I'm coming from, the market I'm representing, it ain't a lot of rappers getting paid for what they're doing, Of course, the hustle is real, and if you know how to hustle, you can survive. But for the most part, the large aspect of it is, I'm in a space to where I keep an attitude of gratitude, and I'm happy to be alive. That line pretty much hits the nail on survival, the things that I've seen, witnessed, overcome, the struggle, the highs, the lows, everything that comes with not only just the music, but just life. So that pretty much sums it up. Like you said, it sets the tone not only for that single, but it sets the tone for the entire album. Life is a trip, on so many levels. And a lot of people, I'm 51, and I'm proud to say that I'm 51 years of age. That's an honor and a blessing and a gift to be older in this genre, in where I'm from and what I came from, to be able to make music still and have the level of joy and passion and diligence that I have when it comes to doing music. So, and I thank God for it all, the highs and the lows, the goods and the bads. So that's basically what I was saying in those opening lines to that song, because it's a true testament, and it's honest and it's real, and it pretty much captures how I feel in this present time and now.
Okay. All right, so my next question is, how do you feel Arkansas fits into the current landscape of Southern hip hop, and what do you feel the world still hasn't seen yet from the state?
Well, to answer the first part of the question, where you said where Arkansas stands in the current landscape, or you say Little Rock, you said Arkansas?
Arkansas, as far as the current landscape of Southern hip hop.
Okay. Arkansas, it's almost like, how can I put it? We're here, but we're not seen. We've always been here. And you look at the map of where we're located. We sit on top of Louisiana, catty corner to Memphis, right there on the tip of Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Mississippi is right there, and so on. We've been influenced by every aspect of hip hop. Me, I'm 51, so I was there from the beginning. It's been a part of my life since the beginning. I grew with this genre. But to answer your question, Little Rock, in Arkansas specifically, is a part of this culture. We hadn't knocked down the mainstream in such a way as other major markets, other major cities, not only from the South, but across this country, North, East, and West. But we're still a part of this culture. And we fit in just like everyone else. They're just not familiar with what's here because we hadn't been super visible in the mainstream. But just because we haven't been super visible in the mainstream don't mean that we're not here. We're here. And as far as going forward, Arkansas is important, and Arkansas does matter in regards to the collective story of rap, hip hop. We've had people to come out of the state to go on and make contributions to this genre that hadn't been super praised, that hadn't been all over magazines and TVs and such, but they made tremendous contributions to the art form, to the genre, huge. But also, the last thing I want to say in answering that great question is that was also the test to a lot of artists in Arkansas, a lot of people gave up, a lot of people quit because they didn't feel like they were valid or were valuable to the genre because they don't look on TV, magazines, or any of those things to see reflections of themselves. So I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole and get too deep on that, but we'll revisit that another time. But to answer your question, Arkansas means a lot to hip hop, and we matter in hip hop. And going forward, Arkansas is going to play a huge role in this rap in regards to where it's going to go. It can't go to where it was meant to go and where it was destined to go without Arkansas. And I think everyone is starting to figure that out right now.
Okay. So let me ask, a lot of artists talk about authenticity fading in hip hop. What does authenticity mean to you in 2025?
Great question. Authenticity means everything because, and I'm so glad that you asked that, because in the beginning of this genre, it was criminal if artists weren't original. There was no debate, there was nothing. You couldn't sound like anyone else. That was one of the pillars, that's the foundation of how this genre was founded. They pride themselves on artists being original. So it matters, and it means everything, because at the end of the day, a lot of artists chase things and get outside of themselves instead of being themselves. And to be super specific about it, those record companies, those suits in those high offices, the ones that co-opted this, our genre, what we created, those were the ones that championed copying, mimicking, and so on and so on. You know, there's a difference there's a line between mimicking, copying, or being flattered and being complimentary to someone that inspired you and things of that nature, but to be full blown, get outside yourself, chase what's hot, chase the trend, be a fly-by-nighter, no, that's criminal. And in order for this thing to evolve and go to where it was destined to go, we got to get back to the ground level of it, the rules of it, the things that built this genre, not what a record company suit says is hot, what the trend is, the things that they say that matter. No, they didn't create the genre, we did. We did. And we still own the genre, even though it's co-opted by record label suits and record companies, but the genre still belongs to us. So let that sink in. But at the end of the day, originality rules. And it's gonna be here when the fad is over, when the assembly line, artists, whatever you wanna call it, when it's all said and done, it's gonna come back to originality, the easy way or the hard way. So make it easy on yourself and be yourself.
So, okay, with so many rappers chasing viral moments, how do you balance staying true to your sound while still adapting to today's industry?
That's all I know. You know, I still use the old recipes. I still stand on the old laws, the old principles that still remain true to this day. If you don't know who you are, you will definitely not know where you're going. So you cannot get caught up in trends, fads, what's hot, because you're constantly getting outside of who God made you to be. You know, your testimony is gonna help somebody else. You best believe that just because you're going through it in wherever USA that you are, whatever ghetto USA that you live in, wherever you at, I guarantee you, there's others going through the exact same thing that you're going through. So you just gotta be true to yourself. And as far as people trying to chase things and go viral, I say the best way to go viral is being yourself, because that's easy. You know, trying to constantly reinvent yourself and chase a trend, that's not sustainable. And you know, that's the short answer, but yeah, no, it's all about originality. Once you hammer that into your head in your process, you'll quickly understand, you'll gain long-term vision. And as you continue on your journey, your path, and staying true to yourself, your perspective widens, and you ultimately see through all of that.
Okay. So the new generation of artists often blur the lines between street credibility and entertainment. What's your take on where hip hop is headed?
Well, that's a great question. What I will say is, hip hop 50 years. Like, really take a second and stop and think that hip hop is 50 years old, but better yet, 50 years young as a genre in comparison to all of the other genres. And, you know, hip hop wasn't created to be like any other genre. It was birthed from reality of broken glass everywhere, people pissing in the house like they just don't care, and so on and so on, street reporting, reality reporting. And this genre is continuing to evolve, and unlike the rest of the genres, a lot of the pioneers, DJ Kool Herc, and so many others, they're still alive. You know, people don't really stop and think about the fact that this genre is only 50 years old, and a lot of people that started this genre is still alive. Like, literally stop and let that sink in. So, in terms of being traditional in regards to one size fit all, what the record companies think, et cetera, this genre is gonna always be the supernova that keeps reinventing itself for the better. And it's past time for this genre to grow up. It ain't no, and also the last point I wanna make with that, the times that we're living in are gonna demand artists start saying something. All this partying, I'm not knocking and hating or nothing. I'm speaking from a reality standpoint. Y'all look out of touch. A lot of y'all look out of touch, you know? And the current model of partying, bullshit, murder, kill, sex, all of that don't got shit to do with what's going on in the lives of the people that buy y'all music. It's a temporary distraction to help them escape from the reality of the lives that they're living. But at the end of the day, as things continue to deteriorate in this world and we keep moving forward, y'all gonna be forced to have to say something. So you might laugh at me now, but I guarantee you, this clip gonna age well. Y'all gonna have to say something. It's the responsibility of the artist. A lot of them don't own the responsibility, but at the end of the day, these times are gonna demand it. So that's the obligation of this genre.
Sir, okay. What do you want your legacy in the culture to be when people look back at your catalog years from now?
You know, the funny thing about that is, I don't have a super extensive catalog. You know, shout out to Arkansas Bowl, shout out to 607, shout out to a lot of the Arkansas artists that have extensive amounts of albums, projects that they still own their masters to that's gonna mean something down the road. I just want people to know how much I love Little Rock, how much I loved Arkansas. And I was a part of 2 groups. And my contribution to this genre won't be seen, won't be felt on a level because a lot of the work that I did was here and it wasn't in the public eye. It was in ways that, you know, an older person called me street preacher, and that's why I dropped the project called Street Preacher. You know, it captured and it symbolized a part of who I really am. You know, I love people, their lives matter, so I would always be behind the scenes, whether it's doing acts of kindness, good deeds, humbly. And, you know, they'll remember my legacy mostly from Suited and Booted. Those who've been following me since the beginning, they'll know about the Black Hoods. Rest in peace to my brother, Rich. And, but this album, my most recent project that I just recently dropped, ARKALIEN, the soundtrack to these times, the double album, they'll remember me for that. And so it's still being written in real time, but it took me 12, 13, 14, 15 years all together of trial and error, failure, highs and lows, to get to the point that where I felt like I mastered the craft of who I am when it comes to this music, and this album reflects that. So I believe that this album, they'll remember me for that album as time goes on, and how much I love Little Rock and how much I love Arkansas.
Yes, sir. Okay, so in closing, just let the people know where they can find you on, you know, all social media outlets, anything that you're promoting.
No doubt. You can go to RIDAHGod.com. That's RIDAHGOD.com. And the website, I just launched it, so we're still adding things to it. You can go there and find links to find the double album on all streaming sites. You can purchase it directly from the website. There's links to where you can purchase the digital album, merch, physical CDs, vinyl, double CD. They're on the way. So just stay tuned for that. Stay locked in with me. And so that's the main thing. And I will be announcing performances going in a little later, so stay tuned for that. A lot of promo coming. And I just want to say also, before I get out of here, I just want to salute everybody across social media, more so TikTok. You know, the vast majority of people that have been tapping in, showing love, has been crazy.